Welcome back to Edinburgh for our latest episode of Box 2 in partnership with Best Western Hotels GB, supporting local, proudly independent hotels. Welcome back to Box 2, myself, Jamie Jones Buchanan, and I am joined in studio this week by a very special guest, somebody who I reckon is even busier than I am. It is, of course, Lindsey Burrow, the wife of Rob Burrow, who's actually behind the cameras, is come to see us this morning. Great to see you. It's been a big weekend. Bumped into a couple of events this weekend, a dinner, but the big one, the one that we all had a bit of fun at, was the 10K. And the kids, Maya and Macy, took Rob that round in a wheelchair as well. I think it was a kilometre and a half. How did they enjoy that, and did Rob have fun?
Yeah, they loved it. I think just, for the whole family to get involved in that event was really special. I think fitting it was on Father's Day and the kids got to be involved, and they were immensely proud yesterday taking the medals in to show the teachers and the friends at school. So,
brilliant.
I think it's just trying to show that message, isn't it, that despite the situation, it's just make the most of every day. And it was great to be involved with the whole family and get them involved in events. So really enjoyed taking part on Sunday.
And I hear that Rob enjoyed it as well. I had a bit of a steering issue at one point, got away from him.
Yeah, I think the girls were running quite fast at one bit, lost control, and managed to tip Rob over and end up underneath the wheelchair. But Rob saw the funny side, thankfully, and is absolutely fine. So it was all good.
He's still giggling now, still laughing. The girls have really grown, haven't they? I remember a mid-season international interviewing them there before the England game against France, and it blew me away every time I speak to them how much they've grown as individuals. And I know they're into the dancing and performing as well. Just along this journey and some of the responsibilities that's come across them, how have they grown into some of those roles in the way that they've grown as human beings as well?
Yeah, incredibly proud. I think, in many ways they're very much like the dad. They've shown that courage and that bravery and that resilience, I think, in many ways. And for me, I think they don't look for self-pity. They love life. They wake up every morning with big smiles on their face, and they kind of, it gives you something to smile about. So they keep us going. And, there's never a dull moment, whether it be dancing or swimming or gymnastics or football. We're there just to kind of give them the best childhood that we possibly can. And from Rob's diagnosis, we've always said we want it to keep it as normal as can for the children. And they just love life, and they're so full of energy, and they keep us going as much as anything.
I tell you, they were easier and better to interview than professional rugby league players. I tell you, they were outstanding. There's a chapter in Kev's book when he's talking about the ultra marathon, and he meets a young girl called Harry, who I think's 8 years old. Mm-hmm. And he gives her his snud the night before, covered in rain and sweat, and the next morning she comes, it's dry and it's been washed. And he talks about she'd seen Maya and Macy on the news, and it inspired her to run a kilometre before school. So the kids are having just as much influence on those young faces as well. You must be incredibly proud to hear that.
Incredibly proud, and I think sometimes you don't realise the awareness that you're having, and for us to to let the children do that we always check that they're happy to do that, but for them to raise that awareness and be in the public eye and show just how much that they have tackled this head on as much as anyone makes you really proud as a parent. And obviously, Rob and the children, it goes without saying, are my priority, and making sure that they're well-being and they're happy. And but just incredibly proud of the awareness that they've raised and how they've tackled it head-on, just like Rob. You're
inspiring as a family, and whenever we talk about that journey publicly, people always reference yourself and girls as well, obviously Rob and Kevin, others. I've just found it really interesting when you reflect back, and certainly in contrast to families now within rugby league. I think our generation were a bit more private, and I always talk about the fact Kev being a really close mate. I've only ever been to his house once. I think he'd been to mine once, and the occasions I'd nip round and sit and see Rob. But family life was family life, and then rugby life was rugby life, and it can be uncomfortable becoming public, but it's something that you've obviously had to do. How have you grown into that as well, Lindsey Burrow, having to speak and talk about this journey?
Yeah, for me, I'm just a working class mum, a physiotherapist, I work for the NHS, so to suddenly, have all this attention and to kind of open your doors and let people in, and that was what Rob wanted to do. He wanted to show, how MND affects not just a person but also the whole family, and I think opening his doors and at a time when he's most vulnerable is a really sort of courageous thing to do. It's definitely pushed me out of my comfort zone. And it's been very humbling, and I think I've grown as a person from it. If you'd have said to me 3.5 years ago, you'll be sitting down doing interviews, you'll be doing this, that and the other, I would have said absolutely no chance. It's just not me. I don't like the attention, I don't like the limelight, but I think the feedback we've had, the outpouring of love and support for us as a family has just been incredible. And I think if that helps one other person or one other family, then that can only be a good thing. And that's what we're trying to do, is just do our little bit to help raise that awareness.
And that's it, isn't it? The bell, the drum that Kev obviously talked a lot about, banging, does it to draw attention to what's a really important issue. Is that your driving motivation when you've got to overstep that boundary of comfort? And listen, I feel like to grow in life, it's the best place to be. And I find myself most days with that sort of imposter syndrome or feeling out of my comfort zone. But I do think of Rob and other people, inspiring people who do that for the greater good. Is that what drives you, Lindsey?
Yeah, I think, if it doesn't challenge you, it doesn't change you, does it? And I
Love
think, looking what Rob's going through and how he's so positive and how he tackles things, you just want to kind of do your bit to help. And I think the positivity and the feedback, and people have come up to us and said, we don't have to explain what MND is now, because it's on the map, people know about it. And you kind of think, well, if that helps another person, me doing an interview, it might push me out of my comfort zone, but it's nothing, is it, compared to what Rob and the MND community go through each and every day.
And again, just being pushed in the right direction in supporting MND. Rob talked very early on about supporting those who might not have that same support network. And I found myself, Jen Scribbins has invited me to fishing events. I've been to clay pigeon shooting events recently. You've just signed me up for a Strictly Come dancing event in Blackpool. Wow, nerves, 2 left feet and all the rest of it. But there's a totality to it all, isn't there? Just give me a bit of an insight, because I said you're the busiest person in the world. We hear publicly, because we're in a rugby league sphere, of what Kevin and what the game against Huddersfield, the mid-season international, but give us a bit of an insight into everything else that goes on as well in your life at the minute.
So for me, a typical day would be, getting the kids up, getting Rob up, getting him ready, sorting out his tablets, his medication, getting him dressed, and then it'd be sort of the school run and try and sort of squeeze in a quick run. And then life is just so busy, I think, at the minute. And as I said, my priority is Rob and the kids, so just making sure that they're happy and they're looked after, and then that makes me happy, I think, ultimately. But there's been so much, in terms of the fundraising and the awareness that's been raised. It's quite, unbelievable, I think, phenomenal. I think the fact that it's hard, and how we've managed to kind of reach out to so many people and raise that awareness has been really incredible. It's
been almost like a movement, hasn't it? And there's lots of people trying to raise money for all kinds of great charities around the world, but there's been something different for me, and this idea of doing it with a mate, for a mate, and symbolically when Kev's picked Rob up there, the marathon, the Rob Burrow LEEDS marathon. I think that symbolises how a lot of his effort and his strength has always been turned in towards his friends. And that movement, have you been surprised at the way people have responded to the journey and the events and the challenges that have been done?
Yeah, absolutely. Blown away. As I've said before, we are just an ordinary working class family. So to suddenly have that awareness and to make that difference, and I think just to give people that hope, is really inspiring and kind of motivates us to continue to bang that drum and continue to raise that awareness.
Well, within sport, we do things as a team, and I always talked about, I've played with some very talented players, very bespoke and individual. When you look at that sort of cohort, that group, so diverse in what they were good at. There were no two same figures, but it all gelled together, come together, and that for me was why we're so successful. Now, obviously, there's a lot of camaraderie still, and people ask me, do I miss playing? Not really, because I've come to understand it was all about the relationships. The bit on the field was almost like a byproduct. But give us an example of maybe some of the support networks away from the field as well. So Jeff and Irene and obviously your own family, I imagine, help you as a busy mum, somebody who's still working and obviously supporting Rob.
Yeah, just, incredibly grateful to them, because without their support, I wouldn't be able to do what I'm doing, and I'm very grateful that I'm able to still go to work. I'm very grateful that my parents help with the children. I'm very grateful that Rob and Irene help with Rob on the days that I'm in work. So it's a huge team effort, and, I'm very grateful, and I appreciate there's a lot of carers out there that, don't get the opportunity, that have to give up work, that, are not able to do those things because their primary role is a carer. So I feel very fortunate to be able to do that. And I think that comes back to Rob just wanting to keep things as normal as possible. And me going to work was sort of normal for the kids. And so, we keep it as normal as we can. But without that, it's that team effort, I think, the team.
Of course it is.
Around us.
And all in context, of course. I think there's, as human beings, I mentioned it on Saturday night, the charity ball there, that as human beings, we're pretty resilient when we do things together. We've all got a purpose and a belonging, and we don't tend to fare too well on our own, and it is a real family. That's a treasure and the gold that's been underpinned, impressed upon me anyway. Just thinking about Rob, when he obviously was diagnosed, he continued to coach. I did some coaching with him. I went down that coaching route for a little while as well. Does it still watch the games, engage in it, get opinionated about it on a week?
Yeah, he does. He loves watching it, and rugby is part of who he is. He played over 400 games for Leeds Rhinos in his 16-year career here, and he absolutely loves the clubs, and he loves, watching rugby and getting behind and supporting the teams.
Tell me about the girls. So I've got 4 boys. 2 of them have started playing at scholarship, and there's this conundrum for me as to how much to give them, and so far it's been very little. And the reason being is because I didn't have that. I had to find my own way, my own path, and there's no real expectation other than that they enjoy it and thrive and fulfil the potential. Now Saturday talked about some rehearsals that the girls have been in. This weekend it's the MND awareness round against Huddersfield. Really looking forward to that. And Sky are going to tip in as well. I think the girls have got a few roles to play in terms of interviewing players and doing a little bit of broadcasting. I might even lose my job this weekend. I might end up with Mayor and Macy taking over, but just with their own development. And little Jackson, I know he's only tiny, he's small, but how are they developing into either sport or their own interests, and how does Rob and yourself sort of influence and steer that?
Yeah, you just want them to have as much experience, and they make their own ways, and you'll support them in whatever they decide to do. As a parent, you just want your children to be happy, and that as I said, they love life and they love being active and they're full of energy, and we'll just kind of support them in whatever, be that sport, be that academically, that we'll just support them in whatever route they decide to take.
Me too. That's it's organic. Let it grow. No expectation. It's all good fun. So the girls on the weekend, I've been in a production meeting and seen what they got to do. Have you spoke to them about it? Are they excited? Are they preparing? Are you excited?
Yeah, I am. I think it's just brilliant, and I think how the whole rugby community has got behind us as a family since Rob's diagnosis has just been phenomenal and so heartwarming. So I think the girls are really looking forward to it. They've got a few lines to learn, so watch out Barry McDermott, I have to say.
I know. Watch out, all of us. I reckon they're getting a bit old and all ready to start turning a few over. Just going back to the creativity again, obviously Magic Weekend last couple of years, designed that shirt there when we beat Cass over there last year in 2022. Obviously Donny Weir centric shirt this time, but how much do they involve how much do they enjoy being involved in that interaction and design process? They
loved it, yeah. I think just getting involved and designing the shirt it was really special, and they came up with the design all by themselves, and I think it's just something in years to come to look back on and kind of it's kind of the memories that you take from it, and they wouldn't have had these opportunities, these experiences, so despite it being the worst possible situation that they could be in, I think there's a lot of good, and I think that'll help them in years to come, looking back on the legacy that Rob's created and what he's achieved. Will be something that they'll look back on and be very proud, I'm sure.
Super. And this week we're getting really excited. There's a fair bit going on actually. This Friday, 23rd of June, our reserves will be preceding the main event, also taking on the Huddersfield Giants, kicking off at 5:30 p.m. So get down early and support our young people. And then on 24th of June, the Saturday, it is Super Saturday in Manchester and Salford, where the PDRL wheelchair and women's nines will be all competing in a tournament in the same locality. PDRL kicking off at 10:45 with the final being played at 2:50 in the National Basketball Centre. The women's nines will be competed and contested by Catalan Dragons, Leeds Rhinos, Huddersfield Giants, St Helens, York Valkyrie and the Warrington Wolves. First game at 10 a.m, final game being played at 1 p.m. And then a full day of wheelchair action starting at 12 noon with the Leeds Rhinos kicking off at 4 p.m. Just seeing Tom Halliwell, who won the World Cup, England Rugby League captain, get an OBE. James Simpson, the coach of our wheelchair rugby league team, just got an MBE as well. There's a lot of chatter about Rob and Kev potentially getting that CBE, getting knighted, and a big movement, lots of voices from big organisations and newspapers What do you reckon, Lindsay? Should they get that knighthood?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, firstly, congratulations to Tom and James for their, respective awards. I think it's, phenomenal achievement and, very well much deserved. But yeah, absolutely, I'll champion any, petition, any campaign to get Kev and Rob knighted. I think, in the rugby community, Kev's already known as Sir Kev, isn't he? So I think it just needs to be made official. But I think, for me, Rob going public, raising that awareness, showing people the brutality and, the real effects of, how hard MND affects the whole family is really courageous. And I think for Kevin is shown us what true friendship is and, what he's put his body on the line, not just physically, but mentally, time away from his family to do all that to show is just incredible. And I think collectively between the two of them, they've raised probably just short of £12 million for MND charities, which is just phenomenal. So if anyone deserves to be knighted, I think it's those two. But I know in the humble nature that Rob and Kev is, they don't do it for the recognition, they don't do it for the awards. It's about, raising that awareness, doing your little bit just to show you care. Which makes it even more incredible, I think. Yeah,
but we can talk about it all we want and we can encourage it as much as we like. Well, listen, Lindsay, thanks for joining us. You are super courageous, you are super inspiring. Really appreciate being a part of that journey and we'll always be there to support. Lastly, Barry McDermott won it last year.
Yes.
Did the thriller. And I don't like losing, and I don't like coming runner-up. And he's going to be in my ear roll all the time through this process. So what advice have you got for me in terms of preparation and what can I look forward to?
Well, Jonesy, I'm not quite sure what you've letting yourself in for here, but I think there'll be lots of sweat, lots of tears, lots of humiliation, not to mention the blisters and bruises from the Cuban heels. But no, it's a great cause, and I think again it's just going out of your comfort zone, isn't it? Trying something different, raising that awareness, and I think you'll be great. You'll breeze it. You'll be brilliant. Can't wait to see you in the lycra.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, before then, we've got a game against the Huddersfield Giants, and it is, of course, the MND awareness round. So get down, support the team, support Rob Burrow and Lindsey Burrow and the girls, Maya, Macy and young Jackson as well. Can't wait to see you down there. Lots going on this week, and I look forward to seeing you. Have a great week. God bless. We're back at Headingley Stadium and the boys are in the background preparing for the big game against the Huddersfield Giants in round 16 of the Betfred Super League competition. And we're immensely proud to be dedicating this particular fixture as our annual MND awareness game. 7-time grand final winner and my good friend Rob Burrow will be here with his family as guests of honour for this big West Yorkshire derby, which comes just 48 hours after Global MND Awareness Day on the 21st of June. Last time I walked across the yellow turf of Headingley Stadium was to cross the finish line at the inaugural Rob Burrow Leeds Marathon. In 27 years I've not experienced a day quite like it, the way that the Rugby League family, especially the Rhinos family, came together to raise funds, money and awareness for MND. It is the latest chapter of this unbelievable fundraising journey. It began on January the 12th, 2020, with Rob playing his final game at Headingley in my testimonial against Bradford Bulls. From there we've broken records, we've campaigned for change, we've gone racing, we've danced, we've walked and we've supported Kevin Sinfield in going the extra mile to raise vital funds, and we've brought the fight against MND in the hearts and minds of people far beyond the heartlands of Rugby League. Games are won and lost, seasons come and go, but this Friday night we can unite together again in a continued fight against MND to raise awareness and to keep banging the drum in the true spirit of the Rhinos. Rob's daughters, Macy and Maya, will be among 777 school children taking part in a dance spectacular before the game, and his son Jackson will deliver a specially produced MND edition match ball ahead of kick-off. The Rhinos will be wearing their Doddy Weird tribute kit, and you can grab yours from the club shop, with £10 from every sale being donated to the MND charity My Name's Doddy Foundation. And most importantly, 20% from each full price ticket sold will be donated to the MND Association, with volunteers from the charity on hand to collect donations and offer advice about MND to supporters. help us to honour Rob Burrow and continue the fight in tackling motor neuron disease. Join us at Headingley Stadium this Friday, 23rd of June, for our annual MND awareness game. Visit tickets.therhinos.co.uk to secure your place today.